Thanks for joining the Savvy Ladies Wednesday Wisdom webinar. I'm Maggie Montemuro, and I'm the Marketing Manager at Savvy Ladies. Here's a quick reminder that if you have any questions during the webinar, you can type them into the chat box or email info@savvyladies.org. Today's presenter is Lori R. Sackler. Lori is a financial advisor, senior vice president, and senior investment management consultant at Morgan Stanley Wealth Management, where she leads the Sackler Group. Sackler, with her team, advises a select group of individuals and families on financial security, lifestyle, and legacy concerns. Lori Sackler is a certified financial planner, certified investment management analyst, and non-practicing certified public accountant. She is also the creator and former host of the radio show The M Word on WOR in New York City, and author of The M Word, the money talk every family needs to have about wealth and their financial future, and The M Word Journal, which are both available on Amazon. Thanks for being with us, Lori, and let's get started.
Okay, well, thank you, Maggie, and I also want to thank Lisa for inviting me back. It's always a pleasure to be part of what you're doing here at Savvy Ladies, so my kudos go out to all of you. Yesterday I was interviewed by Reuters, and it was in part because of my book, and I mentioned the topic that I was going to be talking to you about, and they were equally interested. So you may see this topic and some of the findings that I was able to obtain through these insights from women I interviewed. You may see it circulating through your universe. Okay, so you may know that women around the world control the purse strings, but do you know by how much? So the control and influence is upwards of $20 trillion, or 27% of the world's wealth. And in the U.S., this decision correlates to almost 40% of our nation's investable assets. We've come a long way. And because of the numbers of wealthy women investors, which is growing almost double than men, women are increasingly influential over their money matters, and men are listening up. It's becoming something they want to know about as well. So what I wanted to do through these interviews that I conducted around the country is to take a closer look at the issues facing women vis-a-vis their wealth. I also want to know how do they view their financial management, how do they juggle work and life, and how have they advanced in their careers. So I interviewed informally, so this is not a scientific survey. It was just anecdotes and questions I had created, and I basically presented them to about 20 top women leaders around the country. And so they represent various industries. They're across the for-profit and the nonprofit worlds and the public and private sectors of corporate America. And I wanted to hear about the challenges and solutions they've developed along the way. So the insights that you will be hearing, I hope will have some impact on you, that no matter what phase of life you're in, they can help you, these insights will help you, A, better manage your money, help you advance in your career, and thirdly, deal with your own work-life balance issues. So let's talk about the obstacles that are facing women. I mean, you have probably read a lot about this, but obviously this was top on the agenda when I talked to these women. Child care, or what we call the diaper ceiling. So how is that defined? The artificial barrier to advancement in the workforce imposed by challenges of motherhood. This was a dominant theme. And whether or not you have children, I'm sure it will impact you either today or tomorrow, because in the workforce we see that this diaper ceiling is affecting the women all around us. So the question is, how do they solve this dilemma? And what I found was interesting from the comments is they all agreed that if we could find a solution to this, it would help unleash this amazing talent and energy and resources that women provide. So it's a big issue, and it's not only one that women are thinking about, but men as well. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Women still handle the majority of child care. So in my research around doing these interviews and writing the articles, they still handle the majority of child care, the household duties, the caring for the family, and caring for aging family members. And it's substantiated in study after study. You may have seen the studies. There was a recent New York Times article a few weeks ago that talked about the fact, yes, this exists, but there is when there's a significant difference in earnings, you can actually see the male partner stepping up to the plate a little more around household duties and caring for the children. But for the most part, we still have to do it all, and it's a lot of pressure and it's a lot of work. So so the other issue, the third major obstacle these women saw was the definition of having it all. We are tremendously influenced by the societal definition of having it all, and a lot of this comes from the celebrity role models out there. So many of these role models, we have to remember that they have enormous resources, they have flexibility, they have marketing people around them helping to create that image and perception, and it's really not reality for most women. So we're going to talk more about the need to define what having it all means to you, setting your own priorities and executing them over time. So what were the potential solutions that I discovered? Well, first of all, we need a national child care policy. And there's plenty of examples around the world where this is the case. So let's take, for example, Germany. They have legislation guaranteeing every child over the age of 12 months a spot in daycare as part of a national policy to bring women in the workforce. Sweden. Couples may receive up to 480 days paid leave and can subsequently place children in government-funded what they call educare, which is a combination of daycare and preschool, for no less than $200 a month. Even Britain has created a maternity leave up to 1 year with much of it paid. So we see that our European partners in trade, right, they definitely are trying to solve this problem, and I think they're doing a pretty good job of it. Another solution that we discussed in the interviews is an increased reliance on partners. So this was one quote that came from a senior VP at a publicly traded company. As breadwinner, I had to reconcile my ambition and my responsibility as a mother. And I'm sure that resonates with a lot of you out there. Even if you're not a mother today, you may want to be one down the road. This is something that definitely we all are going to have to deal with. What I thought was also interesting is her solving that problem of trying to reconcile those two issues, balancing them out in her life, was what she said. She had to be creative in the moment and figure it out, and how she did that was collaborating with other women. She created a study group so they could actually utilize one another, bounce questions, bounce resources, bounce child care solutions off one another. And so I thought that was interesting, that she was able to find her own creative solution, which was kind of what resonated throughout the interviews. Another executive suggested, which she wasn't able to do on her own, is finding a partner in your business who can actually share more of the day-to-day duties. So you are freed up to spend more time with your children, and maybe you work evenings, after you put them to sleep. But the point was to find a user-friendly environment, create one where you have partners around you who can help you sort of resolve that reconciliation. So let's talk about having it all for a minute. So redefining it, having all, which was a solution that particularly resonated with some of these senior executives. And what they've had to do is figure it out on their own. I mean, you can't expect yourself to actually have it all. I mean, I think in my personal life, I've been able to have a fairly successful career and raise two wonderful children, but there's a lot of things I haven't been able to do. I never learned to play tennis or golf the way I wanted to. I never was able to take the vacations I aspired to do, although I am making some headway on that now. But I think you have to come up with a definition of what works for you. I think also a big subject matter that came up in the conversations was the differences between mentors and sponsors. And those are solutions that we're going to talk about the differences, but the women really thought it was important for people to understand the difference and to seek those out in the workforce. And finally, they all agreed there needs to be a promotion of women to senior management. All women really need to be on board with this, and which I find really interesting. It's good for business, and it's good for the growth of the economy. Excuse me, I'm suffering from a bit of a cold. And Morgan Stanley, along with other institutions, have realized that it's important to help promote women to more senior management positions. And in fact, we, like many of the institutions, have an area called impact investing, which, for example, you can find companies that have a certain percent of women on their board. So what you may have seen in your travels is that Typically, it's a 30% number that's out there. If there's a 30% number of women on corporate boards, you actually see real differences in return on equity, growth of revenue, profitability, et cetera. So there are some real reasons why not only women should be helping to promote other women to senior positions, but also men. And I think another thing we need to be reminded of is that it's not only in corporate America we see the need, but obviously we need to see it in government, media, entertainment, and the like. So let's talk about the difference between mentoring and sponsorship. I mean, how many of you actually know what the difference is? I'm sorry I can't see you and you can't see me. I'd love to take a show of hands, but there's definitely a distinction. And so let's talk about what the differences are. Let's discuss what is a mentor. So first of all, it's somebody who you select in the organization who can provide you perspective, experience, inspiration. You can bounce things off of this person. They can help open professional doors. And what's interesting, research shows that it's associated with higher job satisfaction, higher promotion rates, higher future income, etc. So you want to be thinking about in your own lives how a mentor might impact you, and in fact, is there someone that you might be able to select to become your mentor? Because it does make a huge difference. But most of the women felt that sponsorship was even more important. So who is a sponsor? Well, a sponsor offers more than what you would think of as traditional personal and social growth that comes from the mentor. This is somebody who has significant decision-making responsibilities in the organization and can actually advocate for you and advance your position in the organization. So it's someone with the position of power, and the focus is on advancement. And whereas a mentor is someone who can help guide you through the organization, can help educate and inform you, it's really the sponsor that's going to actually advocate and help you get to where you want to be. So they may be the same person, but most likely they won't be. And so we want you to think about those two different roles that need to be possibly part of your life in your career. So I want you to think about that further. So let's talk about some of the experiences with mentorship and sponsorship. So we find that younger baby boomers, Generation Xers, and millennials continue to have more access to mentors and sponsors, which means they've had more experience and they've probably gotten better results. And I think that might be possibly the reason you saw the disconnect between Margaret Albright's comments and Gloria Steinem's comments about Hillary Clinton and some of the lack of support on the part of some of the younger women, because the older baby boomers had a big struggle. They didn't know what a mentor or sponsor was. They were just sort of out there in a trial and error. So I was thinking that might be an example of how the differences in age has impacted sort of this whole mentor and sponsorship experience. Sponsored women are 27% more likely than their unsponsored peers to ask for a raise, 22% more likely to ask for the stretch assignments. So when we think about having a sponsor, what it really does is build confidence. It builds people's ability to ask for the raise, to get the assignments, et cetera. And men, as we know, continue to be the majority of stakeholders in corporations. So in many industries like mine, which is male-dominated, you may want to consider a male sponsor. I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of women will gravitate to choosing a woman, but it's essential that you think about male sponsors as well. So I want to remind you of that. Women in leadership positions are increasing, but long road ahead. When I look at these statistics, it does make me a little a little disappointed, I guess is the word I would use. We comprise nearly half the workforce, but we are very poorly represented at the top. So according to a study conducted at the Center for Talent Innovation, and this was information I got because I interviewed Andrea Moffett, who's the senior VP of this organization, and she did a huge study which J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and Morgan Stanley participated in. Women only represent the top 7% of corporate America. However, there's a rich, what she called marzipan level just below, which is about 30% of which so we're in that middle market, that middle management world, but we need to see ourselves moving upscale, right? And the lack of this diversity in leadership is widespread. So if you think about the U.S. Congress, in 2015, 104 women held seats. That's 19.4% of Congress, while we make up 50.4% of the U.S. population. So there's a huge disconnect there. Of the Fortune 500, there are 24 females in the C-suite. 20 years ago, there was none. So in 20 years, we've moved up to 5%. There is progress, but obviously we want to see more. And I think what's interesting is this statistic plays out in government, in culture, in media, and obviously we heard about it at the Academy Awards, right? There was a lot of discussion about the poor representation of women in a lot of positions in the entertainment world. So to remind you, women around the world are increasingly pulling the purse strings. We're influential over money matters, but we need to assert our influence more and more. Studies find that up to 66% identify themselves as primary decision makers over their households. This is a huge increase over the last 20 years. In a 2-year period, the number of wealthy women in the U.S. grew 68%, while the number of men grew only 36%. So this is where in my opening comments, I talked about how women are doubling, the growth rate is almost double that of men in the growth of wealth. So we need to take a closer look at the issues affecting women. And don't you think that makes sense, obviously, right? So when I was interviewing these women, I said, so tell me about your own personal financial management. I mean, obviously there's a little bit of personal self-interest here. I mean, I work with corporate executive women. I want to understand, how do you view your financial management? What are you looking for? What keeps you up at night? So here are some of the comments that came back. And what I would assess is they all felt strongly about working with female financial advisors. Women often understand other women and possess and processes and obstacles for success. Male financial advisors traditionally overlook the female investor. One woman was, really tough on the topic because she recalls having an interview with her male partner by a male financial advisor who never made contact with her, never looked at her in the eye, and we hear a lot about that. And so it's not so unrealistic. The statistic that 70% of women leave advisors within a year of a husband's death because most advisors are male, right? And the woman who inherits the money obviously can make a choice about who she wants to work with. One thing that definitely resonated among the women, they want to be understood, listened to, and asked, what are your priorities? Advisors, here's one comment, would be well served by listening and communicating directly with the female experience. And what most of these senior women recognize is that the industries are transitioning to women and wealth. And one final comment, I would make sure if you are with a male partner that you do not defer. Men have a very different way of looking at finances. And I've seen strong, successful women over my career deferring to the male and not handling their own personal finances. And I've seen a lot of errors and mismanagement along the road. Women are different when it comes to communicating about money, establishing their investments, goals, and values, and ultimately they have different risk tolerance. So that needs to be taken into account, and definitely not best to defer. So the executive women that I talk to really appreciate female financial advisors. Most of them have female financial advisors. Here's some of the things they said, some of the quotes. Having a female financial advisor particularly important during divorce and critical life transitions. There was a common understanding of challenges around profession, children, and values. Inclusive style by taking time to understand, educate, etc. I thought this one was interesting. Women are willing to listen, take time, create a safe zone, and to ask a lot of questions. This was actually a comment that was supported with some real statistics and research. And women want to feel connected between money, career, workplace, and community. So that's a statement that really underscores this whole evolution of impact investing, which is really a woman's idea. Women want to impact their community, so they're looking to ways to be able to do that through the money that they manage. So what are my takeaways? look to find a solution to childcare that will help you in your unique way advance in your job and create a more balanced life. And if you don't have children today, you may choose to down the road, so it becomes even a bigger balancing act for you. Define for yourself having it all. Find your voice. Why is work important to you? What do you want to accomplish in life? What matters to you? Those are the ways you should be defining yourself. Make sure you identify a mentor and sponsor, and remember they're two different roles and probably two different people, and be a part of the movement to more women representation at senior levels and on boards in your companies. And I would even add, for example, I've been very active in trying to help support women candidates on a federal level to congressional and Senate seats. So, find a way that you can make an impact to help further the advancement of women in whatever area of pursuit it might be. And consider finding a woman advisor who understands you and the particular challenges and the changing landscapes that you are in. So a little bit about the Sackler Group. We advise a select group of corporate executives to help them keep pace with the change in their lives and advise them and their families around financial security, lifestyle, and legacy concerns. We have a very disciplined approach, and we like to have a meaningful impact. So at this time, I would like to open it up to the women on the call. I'm sorry I can't see you and you can't see me, but I really like to entertain your questions and see if there's some way we can relate this information even more further to you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Lori.
Yeah.
We have some questions here for you, so I'll get started
Okay.
with the first one that came in is, logically, I know that women can't have it all because there will always have to be sacrifices, but I can't help comparing myself to other women who seemingly have it all. What are some things I can do to not get so caught up in the feelings of failure?
I think I mentioned earlier in the talk that that's really a myth, having it all, and it's perpetuated by celebrities and the marketing that they do around this having it all. So it's really a false comparison, and the only failure is that you're accepting that image as your reality. So as I said, figure out what having it all means to you. I mean, what are the most important things that you want to accomplish in life? And then, define it for yourself and create your own personal story. It's hard to balance. It's hard to have relationships and work and have a career. I mean, it's not easy. I mean, the work alone is challenging. So make your own definition, I guess, is my suggestion. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Another question here is, what's a good way to get a mentor and a sponsor? Is it something that I can simply ask someone? And do I need to approach a mentor and a sponsor differently?
Well, first of all, you want to identify, okay, the best way is to think about what you're looking for in a mentor and sponsor, and think about the choices that you have in your organization. Yes, it is about simply asking someone. And remember, you're going to have the person who's going to be your mentor may be a colleague in your department. It could be someone that you have a lot in common with, who's more senior, who you can bounce things off of, that can educate you about the organization, keep you informed, etc. The sponsor is going to be someone who is definitely in a leadership position of power, who can advocate for you. If you need something done, or you want to get that raise, or you want that job that's opened up, this is a person that can help you do it. So you approach them differently because you're looking for two different roles, right? But you definitely want to prepare for that conversation. Think about the person you're going to talk to, think about what you want to accomplish, and then definitely make it happen so that you can actually be educated and informed and advanced in the way you want, okay?
Okay, thank you. The next question we had come in is it expected that a financial advisor would explain the concepts and jargon that I don't understand? I want to learn about my money, and I would hope that a female advisor would explain things clearly.
Well, the research shows, in my experience personally, is that women want to understand. They want to be listened to. They want to know the details. They want to be informed before they make a decision. Men have, there is in part physiology based. We have different sized brains in different parts of our brains, so we think differently. So yes, the men can probably get a few pieces of information, make a quick decision, whereas a woman wants to have a relationship where she can understand. So yes, you should expect that from a financial advisor, and you should choose somebody who's going to help you, who's going to explain things clearly and help you, get to where you need to go. So yeah, you need to be expecting that, and you need to ask for it, right?
Right. Okay, thank you. And another question here is, what if you think your mentor is not helping you? Is it smart to
Hmm.
break up with a mentor?
Well, I don't know that I would call it a breakup. That sounds kind of negative. But to make a change, absolutely. So if you feel like you're not getting what you need from this person, you should definitely look elsewhere because you want somebody who, with whom you have respect, and there's a mutual interest here, and they're trying to help. You know, they're trying to help you in the ways that you need help. If, on the other hand, this person is not doing that, it's certainly in your interest to make a change. But I would warn you, it takes time to develop relationships, so you don't want to be premature. Finding the right person is key, but you might want to understand that it takes time to nurture those relationships. So it's an art, not a science, and so tread carefully about making a change because you obviously want to do it diplomatically in the way that you don't in any way turn that relationship into something that's not positive for the two of you. Yep.
All right, great. Well, I want to thank you, Lori, for a really excellent presentation. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing all of your findings with us.
My pleasure.
And I want to thank everyone who joined us today. We hope that you'll join us again for future webinars. And a reminder, you can purchase Lori's books, The M Word and The M Word Journal on Amazon. And thank you again so much, Lori.
Yeah, thank you guys. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.